Hi everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you at ValueX, and I've discovered that the three principles are actually seven. I'm going to end this short introduction with a reiteration of the three, but I'm going to go into some of the others. We have a slightly larger and changed location. We were forced out of the hotel, and so I wanted to share with you some of the other principles by which ValueX is organized, which will be helpful given the new organization of the agenda. And so I'm going to just start with this idea of investment ideas worth sharing. And when we say investment ideas worth sharing, meaning that one's talk and discussion, whether informal presentations or otherwise, is around generating knowledge and insights that an investment decision maker would find useful and interesting and would perhaps even drive them to take an investment decision. Now, that might be a stock pitch, obviously, or an idea, but it could be around insights into an industry, or it doesn't have to come down to a specific stock idea. And just to help, what it certainly distinguishes it from is polemics, politics, academic ideas that are interesting, but that's all they are. And uh, anything that seeks to persuade for the sake of persuading. That's, I guess that sort of covers it. So that's principle one, investment ideas worth sharing. Principle number two that I wanted to share with you is many to many. I think that you all get that we try to get everybody to stand up in front of the room and ideally present thoughts or ideas on something. And because of that, we have very, very tight time constraints. 80 people, all of them talking to the whole room, means that we have very, very short presentations. And the idea being that pretty much everyone can tolerate a short presentation because they know that it's going to be over soon, and that they can follow up with the person at the bar or elsewhere if there's more to deep dive on. But that does mean that we have to be highly respectful of people's time, and that goes into the presentations themselves. As you know, we want to dispense with introductions and small talk and get straight to the main idea. But there will be, as we've modified that the format, there will be circumstances in which we are in roundtables, in which there are a few other principles around the many to many, which is that once somebody has spoken, the goal is not to have that person speak again until everybody else at the table has spoken. And you can call that the parliamentary principle, or you can read it up in Robert's Rules of Order. And the key idea there is that often it's the most quiet, retiring violet in the room that has the most important and useful idea. We want to squeeze that out. And we also want to take away the stress of trying to fight for airtime. We don't want people to fight for airtime. We want people to know that if they're quiet, that's okay. They will be heard. And the whole room or the whole table or the whole group will seek to ensure that they have an opportunity to address the group. And we seek not to allow one or two voices to dominate, which can happen very, very easily. So that is the second sort of idea, many to many. The third idea that is more about how we organize ourselves, but I very much want you to understand it, is the concept of going Dutch. We've all experienced going to lunch and questions about who pays, does, you know, and if you allow somebody to invite you for lunch, maybe you're obligated down the road. And I've discovered that especially around people who are wealthier or more powerful than I am, the principle of going Dutch is a really, really valuable way of doing it. You each pay your half share, and everybody goes away feeling that the meeting was genuinely there for the purpose of meeting each other, not for any other reason, certainly not to create an obligation, because none should exist. In a similar way, ValueX is organized such that our out-of-pocket expenses, or my out-of-pocket expenses in the business, are taken care of by the membership dues or participation dues that you send to us in order to participate. Those cover all of our out-of-pocket expenses, including rooms, meals, various other things. What they don't cover, just to be clear, is any of the staff expenses. And that is entirely fine, because those participants who are traveling are paying all sorts of travel arrangements and hotel arrangements and what have you. And we benefit enormously from organizing the event. And I figured out that the best way to do it is to kind of make it cash neutral for us. I invite anybody who wants to check it. We can share with you the spreadsheet on which we have the kind of revenues and expenses. What we do on the revenue side is that we vary the cost to attend or to participate around what is our estimated break-even cost. And we do that really to reflect the fact that it's a multi-sided market. There are some people who've delivered extraordinary value to the group, and we see that through the reactions and the feedback that we get after the event. And there are people that we're really not sure if they can or will deliver value to the group. And so we try to kind of reflect that a little bit in the kind of variation on costs that people pay, but we target the average, which is our cost per person, cash cost per person to attend. So that's the Going Dutch principle. Last principle before I get to our big three is the health principle. The reason why we start in the afternoon is that it would be a great shame to be in the mountains and not to enjoy the snow, the sunshine, the fresh air, all of those things. And I originally felt like we should only do events like after 7 p.m. But there is a huge demand, obviously, for investment conference type stuff. So we've kind of allowed the agenda to edge its way into the day. But it's still valuable, and it's important to me that people get outside. I think that there's something that happens when we get outside. We get into fresh air, we walk, we snowshoe, we ski. And so that's the reason why the event takes place later in the day in a certain way. If we've lost health, we've lost everything. Wealth is nothing in comparison to health. The organization of the day respects that. It says our health should come first when we're on a kind of semi-retreat conference in the mountains. And so that's the health principle. Just to go back to the first three, and there's a lot of thinking behind them. All of what I've said and what I'm about to bring up is all about creating safety, enabling people to participate with their whole selves, to take the mask off that they present to the world every day, and to make themselves vulnerable, to be ready to be vulnerable. And so that's why we have the confidentiality principle. The weakest form of it is the Chatham House rules, where you can repeat what you heard so long as you don't attribute it. You can go to very, very strong forms of it, in which basically it's nothing, nobody, never. And you can only share something that comes from somebody else if they have given you explicit permission. And I really hope that people aim for that higher standard of behavior than just the Chatham House rules, because it's not just good for the conference or for the event, it's good for life. Second principle is Gestalt. We seek never to tell people what to do. We do damage when we tell people what to do. And it's a way of communicating where, we would rather say, here's a story about what happened to me. And there's a lot that's behind that if you want to dive in, I'm going to have some more videos that will enable you to kind of hear the full extent of it. And then the last principle is non-solicitation, which again, the point and the idea is that everybody should be free to show up there and not be solicited, because if we do that, the bad will drive out the good. Some of the best people who get solicited all the time because they have a lot of money to invest or because they have extraordinary ideas won't show up. And we don't want that. We want to create an environment where they can show up. And so there are weaker and stronger forms of that non-solicitation idea. At the bare minimum, we should never be pitching our wares. We can certainly respond if somebody inquires as to our wares, but that should not be on our agenda. And it can go to very, very strong forms in which we are extraordinarily courteous about the way we go about dealing with somebody who inquires with us, which I will go into in a subsequent deep dive interview. But just that those principles are not, I take them very, very seriously. I care about them a lot. I care if the group attending VALUEx kind of takes them in their strongest form, but should certainly take them in their weakest form. And we survey everyone at the event afterwards and ask them a simple question: was there anybody who particularly added to your experience? Was there somebody who particularly detracted from your experience? And it gives us a very, very, when there's one comment, we may not pay attention, but when there's 3 or 4 of the same kind of comment that comes up, then we do pay attention and we do act on it. So there's the introduction, and I hope you found that valuable. Looking forward very much to seeing you at ValueX.